the museum. These displays will show you some of the things you would have seen in a general store around 1900. You'll also see part of a post office.
The lady side saddle was used by proper ladies when they would go out riding. It was more difficult to keep your balance on this style of saddle. There is a velvet slipper for the left foot, and the right leg hooks around the horn. The newspaper on the wall by the door is from 1770. It was published in Boston. A family may have brought it to Barnes County because it had something in it they wanted to remember. This is a part of the Erisa, North Dakota post office, which shows the window, mail slot, and some of the mailboxes with combination locks. This area shows you items you would be able to buy in a general store during the late 19th century and early 20th century. These mortars and pestles were used by druggists to grind the powders they sold. You would take a paper instead of a pill. The druggist would put a dose of the powder in a folded square of paper, and the people would dissolve it in water. This large glass jar would have held candy for sale by the piece or the pound. The merchant would put your purchase in a paper bag or wrapped it in brown paper and tied it with a string. This man's wedding suit was made in Paris, probably made by using a sewing machine. Notice the spats that would have been worn at the ankle over the man's shoes. The women's dresses are from around 1900. The ivory wedding dress was probably custom made for the bride. The other dresses are machine stitched and are similar to those that could have been purchased in a store or from a catalog like Sears. This is a woman's swimming suit, probably from the 1920s. They were called bathing suits back then. You may think this swimsuit is very modest, but before 1920, women's bathing suits covered their entire body except for their hands, feet, and face. They also wore a cap. Imagine swimming in that.
The military room is currently set up with artifacts from the World War I in 1917 and 1918 and the Spanish-American War in 1898. The displays in this room are changed periodically so the museum can show some of the artifacts in its collection from different eras.
This is the original telegram informing the Times record that World War I was over. November 7, 1918, the German armistice terms were signed at 11 this morning in Paris. The greatest war of all times came to an end at 2 this afternoon. The Allies and Germans signed the armistice 3 hours earlier on the field of battle. The German delegation talked to the Allies under a white flag. Sedan, one of the historic cities of Europe, was captured by the Americans this morning before the armistice was signed. The Daily Times record announced the signing of the armistice in a bold red banner. Red ink is very unusual because it is so expensive to print up. Armistice signed. Washington gives out official statement, Great World War ends. Special to Times record, Valley City, North Dakota. Washington, November 11th, 2:47 a.m. The Great War ended at 11 o'clock this morning, Paris time. Allies and Germany signed armistice terms at 5 o'clock this morning, Paris time. Officially announced by State Department at 2:46 this morning, Washington time. United Press. Washington, November 11th, 1:52 a.m. Allies and Germany sign armistice. Official. United Press. The soldiers' Christmas tree is a replica of what some of the soldiers did to celebrate Christmas when they were far from home. They would make ornaments out of ration cans and anything else they could find to decorate their tree. This flag is a mother's flag. The blue star represented the number of sons that were in the war. When a son was killed in the war, the mother would display a flag and a gold star, and she was called a Gold Star Mother. This summer cadet uniform was worn by Axel Grodum. There is a picture of Axel in his uniform on the wall. The trunk on the floor is also Axel's, which he decorated with his name and hometown. The uniform with the vest was typical of the winter uniform worn in World War I. The flat helmets were used in World War I, but were also carried over to World War II as there was a surplus in military supply. The canteen was carried by each soldier to hold water. The soldiers would use the base of the canteen as a cup to drink from. The chain on the cap kept it from being lost. The mess kit was carried by each soldier to eat all of his meals from. Most of the soldiers carried their own spoon along. Many sharpened one side of the spoon so they could also cut with it. This is a pineapple or shrapnel grenade. It broke apart and threw shrapnel, which did a lot more damage than the concussion grenade. The concussion grenade is much lighter and did not throw as much shrapnel, but did make a loud noise. These grenades are shaped much like a baseball, and the American soldiers were good at throwing them. The museum also has artifacts that were used by German soldiers. The German artifacts were donated by the Tracy family. The German concussion grenade was also called a potato masher. It had a wooden handle so it could be thrown farther. It made a loud noise. Many veterans have hearing loss because of the concussion grenades. These helmets with the pointed tops were German and Prussian. The Prussians were allied with the Germans. The fancier helmets were used primarily by the officers. The helmet with the canvas cover was used by the enlisted men. It had a much simpler design. The German machine gun was water-cooled and could fire 500 rounds per minute. The picture on the wall above the machine gun shows the shield used to protect the operator. The Gurkha knife was used by the soldiers who were natives of India and fought for Great Britain in World War I because India was a part of the British Empire. The Gurkhas were assassins and would sneak into the enemy camp and use knives like these to kill the enemy soldiers. The Flanders Field poem refers to a field where many American soldiers were buried after they were killed in combat. Flanders Field is located in France. In Flanders Field, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place, and in the sky the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. The museum also keeps some artifacts on display in the military room that did not come from the World War I era. One of the items on permanent display is the powder tester. The powder tester was used to test to see if the batch of powder was good. You would fire the gun and the numbers on the gauge would tell you how much power the powder had.
The museum also has a research room where Historical Society members keep many references and research material on the history and people of Barnes County. If you have a question about your own heritage, this is a great place to start. We hope you have enjoyed your journey into the past. In this short expedition, we have only showed you a few of the items the museum has on display. Barnes County Historical Museum has a lot more to offer you in your exploration of the past. The museum is located on West Main in Valley City and is open from 1 to 4 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday during the summer. In the fall and spring, you may visit from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. It's from mid-December to March, but is open to tours by appointment. We hope you visit us soon.